Now, back to the studio with Rob.
Welcome back, everybody, on this Thursday morning, episode number 25 of the Rod Pedersen Show. 125, and we've been honoring number 25s throughout the program in sports. People have been writing in with them. Jeff Friesen's come from the floor. Mike Keane, Carlos Delgado, Jacques Lemaire for the older fans, Corey Koser for you Saskatoon Blaze fans. We got 20 minutes left in the show. Let us know on the Prairie Mobile text line, Twitter, at Rod Pedersen Show. Who's your favorite number 25s? Darren DuPont with us here today, as always, and we're pleased to welcome, making his RP Show debut, Tim Reid, the president and CEO of EVRAZ Place. Said I was in Chapters every day. I'm actually at EVRAZ Place every day, too. Love going down there. Tim, welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
I appreciate with you coming in here with Agribition on. I guess you're always busy, right? But this is like almost a Super Bowl of EVRAZ events.
It is. I mean, Chris and his team do such a fantastic job. I mean, I was part of the CFR for a long time, and we had a big cattle show, but I think this is the best cattle show in Canada. And I think in terms of just the education opportunities, the economy opportunities, the Agribition team does a magnificent job.
We should introduce you to our viewers that don't know. We mentioned this is your first appearance on the show, and we're hoping to get you back. You are a football player by trade. Let's talk about that first, all right? If you don't mind.
For sure. So I played football kind of since I was a kid. I went to St. FX, had an opportunity to try it at the next level, and decided I wasn't a very good football player, and I should probably get a real job, and that's how I got in the sports business. That's
the Cole's notes on it, I guess. But then when you came from Northlands and Edmonton to here, it was big news. You spent a lot of good years in Edmonton.
I did,
right?
Yeah, for sure. It's a really interesting time, and so when I started my career, I went back to St. FX, which is where I played football. I actually played with Mike McCullough, so he and I were captains at St. FX for our career.
Now I know how old you are. Yes.
You do, and and he was a lot better than I was back there.
Yeah, and he'd tell you that.
Yeah, I think he got worse, maybe, but
right, exactly.
But no, so Mike was one of the first guys to greet me, and so I moved actually up to Fort McMurray, and I got into the rec business, and we built a ton of things, so about $1 billion worth of new recreation and culture infrastructure, and then on one of those projects, I got the chance to meet a gentleman that was hiring for Northlands, and they were going through a lot of change. We're building a new arena downtown, and what's going to happen to this old site, and so really got some good insight on what happens when you build a brand new, $1 billion arena, and you've got one in your city already. So that was insightful, and then had an opportunity to come see what EVRAZ Place had, and was floored at just how great a community it is, but more importantly, just the infrastructure that was on that 100-acre campus.
Unfortunately, it's too big of a national secret, but the one thing that we love about this show is we're global now and kind of pumping the tires right of the town. Wouldn't you agree, Darren?
Yeah.
And how many years is this for you, Tim? Here is this 3?
About a year and a half. So I started with the Briar. My first event, and I tell this story all the time, was there was this crazy blizzard, for anybody to remember the last Briar, and nobody called to say, hey, don't drive from Edmonton to Regina.
Of course not. We all do it.
Like, hey, I guess I better get to work. And I showed up, and you guys got like about 340 centimeters of snow that day, I think, and
packed the Brand Center probably.
And the Brand, I mean, it was like every other Tuesday for people in curling world. They just drove in, watched the matches, and so I started with the Briar. It was my first.
Talk about baptism by fire.
It was. Wow. You always hear about curling in Saskatchewan, and Alberta might be the second best place to have a curling event, but it was pretty exceptional.
Questions are coming in already from our viewers, and we'll get to them. They want to know about Grey Cup Festival. Well, I'm getting to that. We're just warming it up here. But I see you all the time, because when I said I'm at EVRAZ every day, it's true, and you're going, man. Like, your world is like a tornado, whether it's, well, I always will say Buffalo Days. What do you guys call it? Queen City X?
Yeah, but
it'll always be Buffalo Days.
You never know. We've started to introduce a little bit more of the Buffalo Days.
Okay,
theme,
good.
So
well,
I like that.
It's branding. Whatever it is, it's always a tornado for you. So what is your life like running that place?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, everybody else does all the work. I just show up and shake your hand and have a cup of coffee with people. So we got a great board of directors, and so thankful that the city's allowed us to operate their properties on their behalf. I work for a board of directors that's incredibly visionary. Our staff is exceptional. Most people don't realize that we're a not-for-profit that has 1,400 staff, and so we're a big enterprise. And but it's fun. I mean, I've worked in this business my entire life, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's one of those businesses, and you'll appreciate this, that you end at 1 a.m., and the next morning you got to be ready for breakfast at 7. And if you don't love that...
Yeah, you'd better love it.
Yeah, because it's hard to do otherwise.
Darren, what do you got?
On a daily basis, you have to be ready to do that. What's the biggest challenge in running a business like that, or running that type of facility? And because you're managing multiple events, I know the cleanup from agribition doesn't happen overnight. What's the biggest challenges?
I'd say that probably the biggest challenge for me is just getting a workforce accustomed to it. And so we've always had these peaks and valleys in our business. And now we're in a place where those valleys are getting a lot smaller. And so we're going from a Heritage Classic to a football game 6 days later or 5 days later. And so the team, they do that. But then we got to flip buildings to get ready for agribition. And so I think what we're learning is if you want to be in this industry, it's about turning over your buildings as fast as possible. When I was at Rexall, we would do 250 dates a year. And so, we would do a rodeo and then have to have the Oilers ready to skate Tuesday morning. And so I think what we're going through is we've always been reasonably busy. But to make this business viable, now you got to flip these things a lot. Yeah. And I think our team is going through the fact that where there used to be downtimes, there's not. And so it means your process have to be better. Yeah. It's harder on your staff. And we've got some people that most people get to see the end product, but what goes into the behind the scenes of events like this, as you guys would appreciate, is unbelievable.
Yeah. Do you have the facilities capable of your dream here?
I think we've got a lot of them. Our board and city council have been working together on a new plan, and so we hope that in Q1 of next year we're going to be able to come forward. I think we have the most valuable asset, which is land, and the second most valuable asset, which is 3.5 million visitors a year. And so you talk about big arenas, right? And you guys understand this. People build big arenas to get 1 million visitors to one place. We already have 3.5 million visitors. And so we've got this great opportunity, and I think what we challenge ourselves to do is how do we make this the best experience possible for people? And it's no longer about a football game. I'm a football guy. I love to watch a football game. I was at Grey Cup last weekend, and whatever there was, 33,000 fans, 1,000 of them were like me and wanted to watch the football game. The other 32,000 were there for the experience. And I think that's where our sport, our business is changing. It's not about just the football game anymore, or just the hockey game. It's about that whole package of an experience.
I'll tell you, when you talk about those visitors, just being at agribition yesterday, seeing all the little school kids, particularly the inner city kids that would never be exposed to something like that. It just warms my heart because my best agribition memories are going as a little kid. It was all the free stuff. And I'm so happy to be able to be back and able to enjoy agribition for that. So again, that's what's going on right now. World's largest agricultural expo is at EVRAZ Place right now. But here's the question. Sean in Saskatoon says, the president of EVRAZ, how is the planning for Grey Cup Festival coming along? It's awesome that everything is going to be on the grounds there. Also, great job with the Heritage Classic. Maybe the NFL will eventually see it as a world-class area to host events. Let's start with the Grey Cup. How's the plan going for that?
Well, I have the privilege of sitting on the executive committee. I think that's the title with the riders, and they were kind enough to ask me to join. And we got a great planning committee. Let's start with that. I think the decision to put everything on one campus, seeing what Calgary did this weekend, is going to be transformational in the Grey Cup experience. And now that we have the assets on site to basically say it's a one-stop shop. Just wake up in the morning, show up here, spend the entire day, go home and do it all again tomorrow. So I think the layout that the riders have proposed, and to their credit, I think they've got a great plan. Our team's working closely with them on how it will work. And in terms of a Grey Cup campus, I'm not sure that we'll have ever had this experience before in the CFL. And I think it's going to be one of the best experiences of all time because legitimately, you can come from wherever you slept last night, show up at EVRAZ Place, and have just an outstanding day of events, of food, of football, of fun.
Could we preview this as saying it's going to be the biggest Grey Cup ever? Or is it too early to say that?
Well,
you're a big thinker.
I mean, I think anytime Grey Cup happens in Saskatchewan, and
it's
so
the best.
You come here and everybody goes, "Oh, the Rider fans," and you go, "Oh yeah, like we'll see," and it is. I mean, we have absolutely the best fan experience that exists in the CFL, and I've been to every stadium, and I've seen it as a fan, as a designer, as an operator. Our stadium experience is exceptional. Our fans are unbelievable. I can't wait to be part of Grey Cup here in Saskatchewan because I think it is a premier, if not the premier, Canadian experience in sport.
Two last questions. I'm throwing Paul right under the bus on this. This is his question, not mine. He said, ask Tim about a new rink. Are we getting a new rink? What can we ask about that? Anything?
Yeah, I think Paul's spot on. I think one of the things that we as an organization have to decide, and I think we as a community have to decide, the Brandt Center is 42 years old. It kind of feels like I do some days, right?
Like creaky.
Like things hurt, and the pipes things don't work the way that it used to. And we had an experience a week ago where we had a brine line fail, and the reality of it is it's just an old building. It's tired, and coming from EVRAZ Place, which was a great building. The model isn't the same today as it used to be, and it doesn't necessarily work the way the Pats want it to work. I'm not sure that it works the way that we want it to work because we can't get the entertainment that we'd like. I mean, last year we did 19 concerts in there, but we can only target a specific level of entertainment. And so I think to the question, in the next year we got to get a plan on the Brand Center, and that's whether we modernize it. Or whether we frankly find an opportunity to build a new facility, and that's going to be a community-wide effort because obviously it has to be about more than a junior A hockey or junior hockey team. It has to be about multi-use. It has to be about special events. But when you think about how the Brand Center connects with everything today, Grey Cup, Briars, we're an incredibly competitive hosting venue for a small market on a national stage. So Brand Center on site is really valuable. But we do have to come up with a plan with it.
That was my tough question, and here's the fun question. You said you played at St. FX. Are you a Maritimer by trade?
I'm not. So I was born in Winnipeg. My dad was a pilot in the military, so I'm a bit of a national mutt. I lived everywhere, but I grew up in Ottawa, is what I always say, because that's where I lived the longest, and then went to St. FX and still have a property in PI, Nova Scotia. So we love Atlantic Canada. It was real good to us.
The reason I ask is about the schooners. I mean, if everybody in the CFL just wants to know what's going on with the schooners, and you've obviously spent significant time there, you're a homeowner out there. Is it going to happen?
Yeah, so, I mean, I do have some insight on this because I actually work with one of the proponents that was proposing the stadium and have advised them on how to build a district around it. But what I would say is I think there's a ton of energy. I think they have to learn from the Saskatchewan model of this has to be not a Halifax team. This has to be an Atlantic Canadian team. I think you're going to know in the next 2 weeks whether or not this is going to go.
Wow. With the vote, you mean the city council vote or something else?
From what I'm seeing in city council is, and you guys will appreciate it because you went through it here with Mosaic Stadium, is there's a point where a council decides that they want this to happen or they don't. And I think it's a coin toss right now based on what I can see. There might be better intel on the inside. I think Atlantic Canada is deserving of a team. I think it's good for the CFL. It's a great fan base. And I think Halifax particularly is a great destination city. It would be a shame to see them miss this opportunity, but like anything else, the process that the ownership group has brought forward, how they communicate with the public, and how they get council's votes, if you don't do that right, you're fighting an uphill battle. And I think that's what we're seeing a little bit of in Halifax is great momentum, struggling with the process and finances. Mm-hmm. But I think you're going to know in the next 2 weeks whether or not this is going to happen or not.
Tim, this has been fun. I think we could go a lot longer, right?
Yeah,
but we do have to break.
Could.
Anything else? Anything we didn't cover?
No, thanks very much. Great year. We can't wait for next year to come. And thanks for all the support. And more importantly, thanks to the public for coming out and hanging out with us at the event.
Awesome.
You're watching Rod Pedersen on demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.